Now, all of a sudden, she wants to act right? No. That's like when you're in a relationship with anybody, a friend, a lover, a working relationship, whatever it is. You've been acting an ass the entire time that you've been employed with three drunks and a pickup. And now, today, on the third day, you decide to show up to work on time? No, nigga. I done hired somebody to replace you now.
I don't hear nobody out there. Hold it down.
Phyllis began thinking a little less about her career and focusing more on her love life as Glenda began to take on more responsibility. Things with Nate Robinson were really starting to heat up, and Phyllis realized her feelings for him were quite serious. I live, breathe, think, and eat music, but I am happy because my mate understands me, she said. I feel relaxed with him because he's the first man I have ever known, ever, who has no hang-ups about my job because, after all, it's only a job. You won't hear me singing in the shower, for example. When I'm at home, I do the laundry and take care of my man. In fact, I really enjoy doing household chores. Girl, don't nobody enjoy cleaning up the house all the daggone time. Kiss my yes. I'm completely in love and enjoying every minute of it. You see, all of the career success is fine. Girl, you ain't got no damn success. Shit. At this point, people just know who you are. But it doesn't mean an awful lot unless you've got someone to share it with. Of her celebrity, Phyllis said that Nate handles it better than anyone else that I have ever associated with. That is one of the reasons I decided I would like to put more time in with this man. Phyllis upped the ante on the relationship with Nate in September when she agreed to co-sign on an apartment he was leasing in the upscale 2400 Chestnut building in Philadelphia. Now, with both her man and her management in the city, Philadelphia was becoming a second home. The move produced a multitude of mixed emotions for Craig Hintosh, Phyllis's road manager. Craig, who lived in Philadelphia, had first met Phyllis at a Valentine's Day concert in 1980 in Wilmington, Delaware. Like many of those who would enter Phyllis's inner circle through the years, Craig had started out as a fan. As her employee, his loyalty was total, and his relationship with Phyllis was boundaryless. As I looked back, there were times when I probably should have asserted myself and put my foot down and said, you know what, I need some space and I need some time for me, said Craig. But that line between friends and employee, it became very blurred, and that was a big problem that contributed to our relationship being rocky at times. Though he was only paid for the dates he actually worked on the road, Craig was on call day and night. With Phyllis in New York, this wasn't quite as bad. More than an hour away by train, she wasn't likely to call him to run a quick errand. But once she moved to Philly, and with Craig only a few minutes away by car, his responsibilities greatly increased, and he became not only Phyllis's road manager, but her personal assistant, valet, friend, and confidant, all rolled into one. Once she had secured an employee's devotion, as in Craig's case, Phyllis, perhaps out of fear of losing it, was unwilling to share. She became very possessive, said Craig. She wanted to control you and keep you for herself. I mean, my BFF is the same way. Child, if I tell her I got a work bestie, she ready to run down here in a pair of high heels and kick somebody up the ass. That's how them cancers be. When Phyllis was especially irritable, or when her insecurities bubbled over and she exploded at Craig, the two would ultimately always reconnect. She'd wait until she knew he was out, then call and leave a message on his answering service. I love talking to your machine, Craig recalls Phyllis saying. She would leave me these long, rambling messages, apologizing and telling me that she missed me and wanted to hang out. She was famous for leaving me these messages on my machine. I guess it was much easier for her. Arista released a second single from Goddess on September 24th. Once again ignoring the Tom Bell sides that made up the bulk of the album. Arista chose the Narada Michael Walden produced Why Did You Turn Me On to service to radio. Radio wasn't buying though, and the song flopped. A mere year ago, Phyllis had been the talk of the town. But by the time 1984 rolled around, the talk was cheap. Yikes. Since the close of Sophisticated Ladies, Phyllis had spent a fair amount of time on the road. But without a hit, she had been forced to reduce her nightly rate substantially. For years, she had lived off of the advances for her records. Now there were no more of those. The $10,000 advance from ABC was long gone, and the bills were mounting. So pause, let me go back. The lady Glenda had went to ABC and said, look, you need to invest in Phyllis Hyman. You need to invest in her image, because trust me, once she gets to the point where she needs to be, she's going to make you back your money tenfold. ABC said, okay, I see she has the potential there, but ABC don't know that this bitch is a self-sabotaging. $10,000 advance from ABC was long gone, and the bills were mounting. She was bouncing checks to both her creditors and her staff with alarming consistency. All told, Phyllis started 1984 with over $50,000 in past due bills. Glenda looked to Arista to solve Phyllis's financial crises, believing that the key to a turnaround was in producing a hit record. She initiated a series of meetings with Arista to ascertain the prospects. But what she discovered was by no means encouraging. Goddess of Love had sold a mere 80,000 copies, and Phyllis owed Arista more than all of her creditors combined. Her debt to the label, including all advances and album-related expenses to date, was the sobering sum of over $400,000. Nearly $500,000. If Phyllis distrusted Clive Davis before learning this, she now loathed him. Phyllis was furious at Clive, who no longer paid her any attention, at Whitney Houston, who was now getting all of Clive's attention, at the record industry in general, and at the entire world around her. Her anger ate her, and gradually it began to spill over onto her stage shows. Phyllis Hyman got a rack of misplaced anger, baby. But, I'll take it back to the beginning. Remember, her mother had issues, okay? But her mother, after a while, got it under control because I guess it was diagnosed and she started taking medication. Don't forget, Phyllis Hyman is still self-medicating. Phyllis had always been direct with her audience, quaintly candid, but now anything that crossed her mind could find its way into her show. Though she hadn't even officially filed for divorce from Larry, she began attacking him from the stage. Some of you know that I used to be married, Phyllis told an audience at the Beverly Theater in Los Angeles. I used to have a husband. Well, believe me, it wasn't all that bad. I'm sure there are many of us out there who had husbands, and thank God we ain't got them no more. Same goes with you guys now. You had some tacky wives and you got rid of them too. I won't lie to you or tell you that he was a bad guy. He was really a nice guy. But what happens in so many relationships after a long period of time is that somebody or both parties ceases to communicate. You know what I mean, girls and guys? Well, I married a deaf mute. I mean, he wasn't handicapped or nothing. The ninja just couldn't talk. After Phyllis finished berating her estranged husband from the stage, she continued with the show as if nothing out of ordinary had happened. Her singing throughout the evening was particularly heavy, though, and she dragged Somewhere in My Lifetime out into an 8-minute gospel-infused testimony. Phyllis spent most of 1984 on tour, except for her semi-annual stints at Blues Alley in Washington, D.C. and Fat Tuesdays in New York. Most of Phyllis's concert dates were one-nighters, which made the road that much more grueling. She was earning $5,000 to $7,500 a night, but her overhead was high. ABC took 10% of this fee. Glenda, who had generously reduced her rate from that industry standard an additional 3%, and out of travel and lodging for the group. This could be quite costly when you consider that Phyllis often traveled with an entourage of 12. As a cost-cutting measure, Glenda convinced Phyllis to reduce the size of her staff. Indeed, in the midst of her fiscal crisis, Phyllis continued to send a monthly allowance which ranged from $200 to $500 to her father and grandmother, and could be counted on to bail out her siblings when they were in need. When her sister Jeannie left her husband and relocated temporarily to Kansas in September 1983, Phyllis loaned her $500. This when she could not even afford to pay her own rent. Yep, that sounds like a cancel. Nate was another one she often had to help out financially, and this proved to be a genuine problem in their relationship. Phyllis was looking for someone to make her feel safe, physically, emotionally, and financially. And unfortunately, Nate only scored at 2 out of 3. When she co-signed on the apartment, it was with the understanding that Nate would pay the rent. Trick-a-boo-boo, Phyllis. But by the summer of 1984, Nate was depending on Phyllis to cover him. An entrepreneur, Nate was trying to get his own optometry business off the ground. Phyllis believing that if the business succeeded, perhaps so, too, with their relationship, loaned Nate more than $3,000 to keep it going. Glenda believed the answer to Phyllis's financial problems was a hit record. She also wisely understood that there was damage control to be done at Arista, and to that end arranged for a lunch meeting with Phyllis, Clive, and Jerry Griffin. I knew that she and Clive Davis were not on the greatest terms because she felt that he wasn't really seeing her, Glenda recalled. I knew that it created great conflict for her because, of course, Clive was just trying to do what he thought was important for her career and his company's bottom line, which was to develop an artist that would be very popular and sell lots of records. Phyllis admitted that she hadn't been as cooperative, perhaps, as she needed to be at times. Glenda continued, I think that's what drove us to have the reconciliation meeting with Clive. She was very interested in reconciling with him. They had reached, for all intents and purposes, a creative impasse and potentially a professional impasse. So the purpose of the meeting was to create this sort of new relationship and to move it forward and to demonstrate to Clive that there was a new intention, a new feeling, if you will, that Phyllis wanted to demonstrate that she trusted him, that she would for all intents and purposes allow him to do what it was that he felt was best for her and her career. Glenda recalled that Clive responded positively to the meeting, and she thought that Phyllis and the label were finally on the same page. Following the lunch meeting, Glenda began speaking with the label about plans for the next album, showing up for what she thought was to be an A&R meeting with Jerry Griffith. Yes, it's over. Call it a day. Sorry that it had to end this way. No reason to pretend. We knew it had to end someday this way. The executive dropped the bombshell. Phyllis was being dropped from the label. Yes, it's over. The kids are gone. What's the use of trying to hang on? Somewhere we lost the key. So little left for you and me. And it's clear to see. Glenda had been blindsided. I was flabbergasted, she recalled. For his part, Griffith said he had nothing to do with the decision to let Phyllis go and that Clive came up with that one on his own. Too much, too little, too late to lie again with you. We're in the middle of something, thinking that we knew it's over. Would I ever have dropped Phyllis from my label? I loved her too much. She was just so amazing, special in so many ways. So pause, let me do this. Sometimes people fall in love with a train wreck. Okay, it's thousands of train wrecks on YouTube. Sometimes I consider myself a train wreck. You know, they root for them. That's why people fall in love with an addiction recovery story, because we want to see the underdog win. And that's what I believe this guy, Jerry Griffith, felt towards Phyllis, that she was an underdog, that she was a train wreck, that was a mess that he believed could grow. But the entire time she was at Arista, she was handing Clive Davis her ass to kiss. Now, all of a sudden, she wants to act right? No. That's like when you're in a relationship with anybody, a friend, a lover, a working relationship, whatever it is. You've been acting an ass the entire time that you've been employed with 3 drunks and a pickup, and now today on the third day you decide to show up to work on time? No, nigga, I done hired somebody to replace you now. And you know who's there? Whitney Houston. Clive don't need you no more, girl. Phyllis had her own theory to explain why she was being let go.
Hollywood, lovely white light, baby carry. No all the stars that come, the but it is in Hollywood.